Hi, everybody. It's Kathy Ondas with Simply Cards by Kathy. And I'm just jumping on here real quick, a minute ahead of time to make sure that you have a good image and that you can hear me well. If you're watching, please drop me a comment and let me know where you're from. Also, that you can see and hear me okay. And we're going to get started in just a minute. I hope you're all having a great Friday, even though it is Friday the 13th. Um, I'm not superstitious, so um, to me, it's just another day. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Again, my name's Kathy Ondas, and I'm with Simply Cards by Kathy. It is Friday, May 13th, 2022. And today, while we are going to be using the Cottage Rose bundle, my focus is to show you some tips and tricks on how to use the Stampin' Blends markers. And we're going to actually be using one of the in colors today, the Sweet Sorbet. And we're going to make the card that you see here. I love this stamp set because I love the color. And I love our Stampin' Blends, but I've had some questions about the Stampin' Blends. As some people tell me that they use them and they get some bleeding around the edges with the color into the black outline. So we're going to go over some of those things today and how you might get just a little bit better look without getting that bleeding. So I'm going to go ahead and move this off to the side. And I want to show you the stamp set. And I'm going to bring in my catalog here because I just want to be able to show you where it is in the new annual catalog. It's on page 56 and page 57. And a little bit confusing is it's called the Abigail Rose Sweet Collection. And that Sweet Collection is made up of the Cottage Rose bundle, which consists of these beautiful stamps and also the cottage flower dies, which we're going to take a look at. And over the next couple weeks, I'm going to be showing you quite a bit that you can do with this. It also has the beautiful paper that is the Abigail Rose paper, and then it also comes with the natural finish ribbon. So don't forget that the bundle itself is 10% off when you get it together. And I'm going to go ahead and move this out of the way, and I want to bring in the papers to show you because I love these papers. For one, the colors are all neutral. And they have beautiful outlines, and they're meant for us to be able to color if we choose to do that. So the colors in this paper are Crumb Cake, Early Espresso, Petal Pink, Smoky Slate, and Very Vanilla. And so you can see nice big images to be able to color. Most of them are able to color. You have, this is really pretty. And then you have some smaller pieces here. And then if you turn them over, you get a variation of like an old-fashioned ledger. And you have some stripes and then some florals with the espresso and the crumb cake. And here's the slate with the some flowers and some leaves. And we're going to be using this one today. I really like it. So let's get started with this. So the Cottage Rose bundle, we're going to use the big stamp today. I'm going to take that out here. And we're going to be using this die. And we'll see it. It's going to cut it out. And then actually next week, I'm going to show you how to use this one. So pretty excited to do that. So we're going to start, and I'm going to bring in my supplies here. So we're using smoky slate. Now you don't have to worry about the measurements because all of that's going to be right down below the video when I'm done. And I will go over them with you as we are stamping here. This is 4 1/4 by 11, and it's scored at 5 1/2. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to fold into the hill. And I'm going to use my bone folder just to get a good crease on this. Okay, now we have a piece of basic black, and I work a lot in 1/8 because I like the smaller edges. So this is 4 1/8 by 5 3/8, and then our piece of designer series paper is 4 by 5 1/4. So let's go ahead and we're going to adhere these because then we're going to focus mostly on our stamping and coloring. So I'm going to use my Stampin' seal for this. And we're just going to go ahead and run it a little bit along the edge here. And you don't need to run it completely all along the sides because you actually don't need that much. So I'm just going to go ahead and I want to get, whoops, as even as I can. And I didn't quite do that. So I'm going to move this over. While we're doing this, I want to tell you about the special we have right now, and not so much even the special is value for your money. We all like savings, and right now we're having an in color special or promotion where if you have an order that's over $99, if I were you, I would consider it, because you will get to pick $125 worth of product, but you also will get, I think it's $66.50 worth of in-color products included in that. Also free shipping, so it comes out to about a $214 value for $99. So if you want more information, please head on over to my website or just email me, and I will be happy to give you, answer any of your questions. I'm going to bring in my Stamparatus, and I'm going to show you why. And I am going to use the shimmer white paper. I really love this paper with the Stampin' blends. Now, when I use Stampin' blends, I use the basic white thick cardstock, or I use the shimmer white. And you always want to use your Memento ink because the Memento ink will help to prevent any bleeding of the alcohol markers. But there's some tips with that. So we're going to go over here, and I'm just going to place, this is a 4 by 4 1/4 piece of shimmer white, and I'm just going to go ahead and anchor that down here. And I think I'm going to even anchor it a little bit with a piece of tape, and I have just like a piece of washi tape. It's actually the Post-it note tape that doesn't stick to the paper. And I keep my bone folder close by. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to adhere that. Now when I ink, and I just re-inked my Memento ink a couple hours ago when I was using it, I'm going to pull this on over here, and I'm going to just put my lid to my Memento on here to give me some stability. And I'm just going to ink it up. When I have big stamps like this, I tend to turn my ink pad upside down because it gives me more control and I have less of a chance, at least for me, of getting it on the edges. I'm going to just go head over and I'm going to press this down, and I'm going to use this little gizmo here because I've been having some trouble with my hand in pressing down. So, all right, I think that's a great stamped image, but I want it a little bit darker, which is why I used my Stamparatus, because I can go over it and it's going to re-ink in the exact same spot without any difficulties. So let's cover that up and we're going to re-ink, press this down again so we get a nice image. And there we go. And you can see it is a little bit darker. And I wanted that just for the distinction. So I'm going to go ahead and take this off and wipe it off pretty quick because I want to let that dry. That is key to your Stampin' Blends not running. Now, if you're in a hurry, you can use your heat gun on the first setting and help it to dry. But I find that if I just let it sit for a minute and go ahead and do something else, it does a great job. So I'm going to just move that off to the side. And while this is drying for a second, I'm going to show you the inside of the card. I went ahead and this is a piece of basic white. And I wanted to finish the edge off a little bit. So while the focus is on the coloring today, just because I know someone is going to ask me what I used for this, this was an edge from the Delicate Edge dies. I believe that's what they're called. Yep, Delicate Edge dies. So I used this one right here. And because it is such fine detail, I went ahead and used a piece of our adhesive strip just along the edge. So while we're waiting for that to finish up drying just for a second, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stamp an image on here. I only want one image, so I'm going to show you what I do with that to get it. I'm going to take a piece of tape and I'm going to mask this so that I don't get any ink on here. And I'm simply going to go ahead and put that down on a block and we're going to ink that up. And I'm just going to stamp it right in the corner. So let's put that on here. And again, I'm going to do the black. And this is an easy way to mask when you only want a partial stamped image. And then I'm just going to take the tape off. Okay. And with that, I'm just going to stamp this one flower. So there we go. So easy way for masking your stamp itself. And we're going to set that aside to dry too. And while we're in here, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to stamp our greeting inside. And our greeting comes from the stamp set that we're using, the Cottage Rose, that you are positively the greatest. So just going to go ahead and adhere this. And then once we're done with this, we're going to get to coloring the rest of the card. And I just want to test this on the side to make sure it's pretty straight, which it is. I hope you all have some great plans for the weekend. There we go. And that it'll include some time for stamping. All right, we're going to bring in this rose image now. And I think I mentioned the two colors I'm going to use are the new colors, the Sweet Sorbet, the dark and the light. All of the blends come with dark and light. So when they come in a pack of two. So I'm going to bring you in just a little bit closer, or see if I can, oops, so that you can see what I'm doing here. Okay. And then I'm going to start with the fine tip. With the Stampin' blends, you have two ends. You have a wider end that's more like a painting, and then you have the thinner end. And I'm going to start with that thinner end. And what I do is I take one or two petals at a time, or images, and I'm just going to go in and on the accent marks that are in the stamp, I'm just going to I'm going to use my dark marker. Now, I tend to start with dark a lot for my accents, and then go in with my light. You can do whatever you like best and what works for you. So when I am coloring, and I'm going to use this, I don't go back and forth, because I find if I go back and forth, I tend to get pilling of the paper, more so with the cardstock than I do with the shimmer white. But I just take, and I'm light-handed, and I just keep pulling from the dark edge and moving out. And I just pull the color. And when I do that, I try very hard, mindfully, not to go back and forth, because I don't want that pilling effect to the paper. Also, you'll notice as we keep going, if you don't go back and forth, I think you have less of a chance of bleeding into the color. So we're just going to go ahead in here. And again, light-handed, because these are just so easy to use. So I'm just barely touching the paper. The other thing is I don't go right up to the edge of the black line, because with the alcohol, it spreads. So I try to stay away from the very edge of it. Let's go in here. Now the coloring takes a little bit of time, but I'm going to go ahead and pull in a couple. And we'll just kind of go from there. If you use Stampin' blends and you have any questions on how to use them, I'd love, just leave me a comment. I'm trying to watch comments. If you are on Facebook, since I am coming live from both Facebook and YouTube, you may only show up as saying a Facebook user, unless you clicked that little link below. Now you can see I am not going up to the very edge. I'm just kind of pulling my color through. And now this one I'm going to use the bigger edge here, because I have a little bit more to work with. And I like the detail and variation in color that the Stampin' blends gives you. And you can see as we're going, I'm not getting any bleeding of my black or of the red, Sweet Sorbet. Okay, we're going to keep going here. I think these images in this stamp set are just beautiful for coloring. I know some people don't like to color, but if you do, this is one stamp set that the images are just gorgeous for doing that. Now, the reason I don't go through and do all of my dark lines ahead of time is because I don't want it to dry so quickly that I can't pull the color from the dark with the light. So I do just a couple petals at a time so that I can be able to do that. Now, when we get to the center, you're going to see that I can go in with, I'm going to use probably Mango Melody because I want it to be a little bit darker. And you'll see that we'll be able to do that without any bleeding into the color. With this, again, I can't stress enough to be light-handed in using these. You don't have to go back and forth. It's not like using a colored pencil or even a crayon I color a lot with grandchildren, so it's not even like using that. So just use a light and keep pulling out. As I get to the edge, I just kind of tend to curve a little bit and stay away from the very edge because, again, the alcohol markers, if you can see this, you can see they fill in. And then I can go back over, and if I've missed a spot, just kind of add to it. If you're watching live, I'd love to know what your favorite new in color is. Just drop it in the comments. I definitely have taken a liking to the Sweet Sorbet. I love them all, and I think they all go together very well. But I just, I like reds, but this one is, I think, now one of my favorites. If you look at the coloring, you can see where we have some darker. I wanted the dark more to the center where the accent lines are. And you can see there's just a little variation there. I'm going to turn this around so I can see where it is I'm going. And I realize this may be just a little bit longer video than I'm used to doing, but I've had so many questions about using the blends and people saying they're having some bleeding with it that I thought it was well worth going over and focusing on that for one of our videos. And I just find that using the Stampin' blends is very relaxing. Okay, so there's our main image. I'm going to bring in my Mango Melody, and I'm going to bring in the dark. And that's going to be our center. And I just, again, light-handed, go up to the edge of where the red is. And it's going to spread for you because it's an alcohol-based marker. Now for the leaves, I'm going to use Old Olive. And again, I'm just going to go in. I'm going to add some dark just where the accent lines are on a couple of these at a time. And then we're going to blend them in with our marker. And even when I'm doing the next image, I try not to go right up to the very line because it is going to spread itself out. I know I keep repeating that, but it took me a while to learn how to use the blends to the point that I liked the effect that I got. Now, the other thing is when you use the blends, let them dry, because the color is going to change a little bit as you use them. And then if you want to add some more color, go back over them once they've dried. And they dry almost instantaneously. So by the time I finish this leaf, if I wanted to go back over the next one and add some color, like here, I can do that. And it just brings in some more. Whoops, now I went out of the line there, and it was because I was hurrying. So, and all I'm going to do is pull this through. Okay. Now, when we're done, if we choose to, we can add, and I did on the other card, I added a little bit of our shimmer just to give it a little bit more accent or shine. I'm going to go ahead and add to this. And we're almost done with our coloring. So again, just okay, so there's our leaves. Now I'm going to go in with the small tip for the stem, and I'm barely touching it. Okay, now I'm going to add some fresh freesia right here for those small flowers, and I'm going to use my dark freesia, and I'm going to use the small tip, and all I'm going to do is dab like 2 or 3 dots. It's almost like you're putting dots on, because I don't want it to spread too much, and I'm afraid with using the wider end I may get more spreading and bleeding through, or around it I should say, than I want. Okay, there's our flower, our rose. So I'm going to bring this up closer and hopefully you can see it. And we're going to cut that out now. So I'm going to bring in my plates so you can see. And I'm using my large cut and emboss, and I'm using the magnetic plate with it. And I'm going to go ahead in here and just, and I've been using this plate now for I guess a week and a half. And I love it. I don't have to use tape anymore. And it actually stays once you get it where you want it. Okay, so I'm going to pop on over. Now, once it's there, all you do is put your one clear plate on it, and you can run it through. So let me do that quickly. And I'm back, and here's our image. So we're going to take our card, and then I wanted to add something to the card. So I used my time-worn type embossing folder, and this is 1.5 inches by 4. And we're just going to adhere that to the center, or about the center of the card. And because that is embossed, I'm going to use my glue instead of the tape, because the glue will get in the little grooves of the dry embossing, and it will better chance of staying adhered. So I want to make sure that my letters aren't upside down. And there we go. And then I'm going to pop the flower up with Stampin' Dimensionals. And I'm just going to go ahead and arrange it however you like it on there. So let's do that. Nice big image to pop up. And I want to make sure especially to get some on the leaves, because I don't want those to kind of collapse as it goes through the mail, and it goes through as they run it through for postage. So what I'm going to do with these, I have a pair of scissors that are old, that I use is for cutting something that's sticky, like the Stampin' Dimensionals or tape. And I just cut them in half. And I'm going to put this one right here. Okay, let's get those off. I don't know about you, but I have these all over the house. And for those of you that follow me on my website, there was a picture of the dog, our dog. We have a golden, who actually had one on his nose. And we took a picture of it. So he was quite the hit when I put that up. So right, so let's arrange our flower. I think I like it like that. So let's put that there. Okay. And now all we have to do is stamp our greeting. And I'm going to use another piece of scrap. And we had your Positively the Greatest. And I'm going to do Friends Forever. So let's stamp that. And we'll bring in our Memento ink. And I'm going to stamp here first just to make sure it's straight. That looks pretty good. All right. Great. So now I want to cut that out and or die cut it. And I'm going to use, I'm using the Stylish Shapes dies. That is new. And that one's too small. Let's try this one. That should be good. New for this year in the annual catalog, and it has the circles, and I really love these banners because I do not cut banners well. So I'm going to run over and pop this through, and and I'll be right back. So we have our banner now. And I'm going to take a little piece of ribbon, and I'm using the black and white gingham ribbon. And I'm just going to cut a small piece, each end on an angle. And all you need is about a 3-inch piece or so. You can always trim it if you cut more. And I cut way too much. So we're going to go in, and I'm going to put this right about here, and I'm going to cut this ribbon down. And I'm simply going to fold it over, and I'm going to use a glue dot. I use glue dots to hold my ribbons when I fold them like this, because I want them to stay in the shape that I put them in. So I simply pick up a glue dot on one in the middle, and then I just fold over my ribbon, and it'll stay that way. And then I use another glue dot on the back side to adhere it to the card. So I'm going to bring that in. And I'm just going to put this in here. And then we're going to pop this up with some Stampin' Dimensionals. We'll use 3. And then we'll trim our ribbon down so it looks a little better. If you like the video, I would love if you'd give me a thumbs up and help me grow my channel. And then if you want to be notified of future videos, just click that little bell or highlight the little bell, and it will notify you when I'm going live. So here's the outside of our card, and now we're just going to finish this up just like we did the outside. So I'm just going to add some dark and just pull that out a little bit. I hope you found the tips today helpful. The blends are so easy to work with that you have lots of options of mixing colors. They don't have to be the same too. And we're going to do some more work with blends coming up here in the near future. So all right, so there's that. And then we're just going to add our Mango Melody. And again, I'm just kind of dotting it because I don't want it to bleed. And I don't want to get too close to the red. Because if you do, remember they're alcohol markers. And they're meant to work with each other and be able to give you a variation in color. And I'm going to go back in just a little bit here with my dark and add some in the center here. Okay, so we're ready to adhere this to the inside of our card. And all we have to do is remove the tape. And I had my pick tool here. Remember I said I added our, gosh, my mind just blanked. So when you pull it off, it comes off very easily. And I put this on in sections because I was just going to use an inch of it. So I cut it to fit. So here's our inside. Isn't that pretty? I love that edge. And I am going to take our shimmer and just add a little bit to it here to give it a little bit more bling. Now, if you wanted, you could add our black matte dots. I'm choosing not to because I didn't want the card to look like it had too much on it, simply because I used a print paper and then I used the embossing folder, and I want my flower to be the focus here. So there we are. Doesn't that look pretty? So this one I used the old olive. This one in the green, I used, oh gosh, what did I use? Soft succulent. So there's our two cards. One is a get well that I made for someone, and then we have the Friends Forever. So I really hope you enjoyed today's video. I hope you got some good tips on using the Stampin' blends. I will be back on Monday at 7 p.m. I hope you'll join me, and I wish you a wonderful, wonderful weekend. See you soon.